Good afternoon, everyone. So today's topic is AIDS and COVID-19. AIDS is a part of your CBME curriculum. COVID-19 is not, but I'm still taking it because it is ongoing pandemic still. Okay. So today's class will tell you the pathogenesis or how the disease develops in both these conditions. What are the laboratory investigations we need to do? How they are diagnosed, and how we can prevent them, and how they are treated. Raise your hands if you know the full form of AIDS.
Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome.
Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. So this has been taught, at least for me when I was in school, it was being taught, right? So I am assuming that all of you know everything superficially about this disease and COVID-19 as well. It is a disease that was first reported in the US in the early 1980s among the homosexual men. You know that there is no definitive cure for AIDS. There is obviously treatment protocol is there. AIDS is a retroviral disease. Why is it called a retroviral disease? We'll come into it. This is caused by HIV, human immunodeficiency virus. It is characterized by immunosuppression, which means that our immune system is suppressed. All the symptoms and signs that you see in these patients will be because of the suppression of the immune system. Okay? Now, because our immune system is suppressed, even secondary neoplasms, neoplasm means it's tumor, cancers happen. Why? Because if you remember, immune system does not only protect us from germs and toxins, it also protects us from the development of cancer. How is it transmitted? Yes.
Contact of body fluids.
Contact of body fluids. Okay. Anybody else? What is the most common mode of transmission of HIV? Blood transfusion? Injection? What else? The most common mode of transmission is sexual contact. Okay? Not injectables. 3 major routes are there. Please stop talking. This class will get longer if you start talking. Let me talk. 3 major routes: sexual contact. There is a word called parenteral inoculation, and infected mother to the fetus or the baby. Okay? So, sexual contact mein both anal and vaginal intercourse can lead to the spread of this disease. Parenteral inoculation means, parenteral word does not mean parents, okay? It means something that bypasses our digestive system and we put it into our body. For example, drugs. The saline that you take, okay, in hospitals, blood transfusion through IV route, which means intravascular route, or it can be intramuscular like the vaccines you take, right? Intradermal, subcutaneous, all of these different routes that does not go through our oral cavity or digestive system. This is known as parenteral route, okay, or inoculation. So through this, like you all were saying, sharing of needles. This is how it spreads. Also, in hospitals, it will spread through blood transfusion. If a person's infected blood is transfused to a healthy person. But it does not spread through hugging, through sharing a meal, or living with that person. Even the people who are round the clock taking care of these patients, they hardly, transmission among them is very, very rare. Even among healthcare workers who are always dealing with HIV patients, the transmission among them is less, is very, very rare, because we all practice universal precaution. Universal precaution means we wash our hands, we wear a mask, we stay away from needles, okay? All of these things. Now, this is very important because HIV was first diagnosed or reported in the early 1980s. More than 40 years have passed and it is still a taboo in our society. You know who this lady is? So this is Princess Diana. During her time in the late 1980s and early 1990s, she was a pioneer person who actually, when it was still a taboo, where people will just discard the people who had AIDS or HIV, she was the one who used to go openly hugging these patients or shaking hands with them. It was a big controversial thing and she did it. This is not a history class, but we need to remember that we are the people who will be the one educating the society. Okay? What is NACO? National AIDS Control Organization. So according to their reports, India has people living with HIV. What is people living with HIV? It means people who have been diagnosed with HIV. Okay? Whether or not they are taking treatment, that is not included. There are about 2.54 million, so there are a lot of people. India has the second highest burden of HIV in the world. You know which one is the first? It is South Africa. Okay? So, in India though, the prevalence of HIV is highest in Mizoram, followed by Nagaland and Manipur. In Tripura, it is about 0.39. So when I say prevalence of HIV is 2.75%, it means that out of every 1,000 normal people, there will be about 2.7 or 2.8% of people who will be dealing with HIV, who are HIV positive person. These many people will be HIV positive patients. This does not show that a whole of, like, these are not the absolute population or number of population who are suffering from HIV, okay? That will include states like Maharashtra or Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. Mizoram has very less population density, and even among them, every 1,000 people, about 2 to 3 people are suffering from HIV. So this is known as prevalence, okay? Tripura, although it is lesser compared to other northeastern states, it is still seeing a very high trend of people with HIV. Unfortunately, among young school kids, starting from class 8 and above, okay? Not just college-going students, even among school kids, we are seeing this. Now let's go to the virology or the study of the virus of HIV. It is a retrovirus and it belongs to lentivirus family. Genetic material is RNA and not DNA, okay? Now it is called a retrovirus. What is retro? Opposite, backward, right? Retrospective, prospective. So backward meaning, if you remember the central dogma, we have DNA, then we have RNA, then we have protein, right? But this virus has RNA. What does it do? It uses an enzyme known as reverse transcriptase, if you remember from your school, and it makes DNA out of its RNA, okay? That is why reverse or retro. It uses that, it makes copies of DNA from its own RNA, and then that will undergo whatever it needs to undergo, transcription, translation, and make a lot of viral proteins, and replication will also happen. So it uses the DNA machinery of the host cell. Host meaning whoever is infected with this virus. Okay, it may be animals, it may be human beings. We are talking about human beings today. So it uses that, it enters into the host cell, transcribes the DNA, which is complementary copy of RNA. Okay? Their own RNA is used to make a copy of a DNA, their DNA. Then this DNA is used as a template. There are types of viruses, you don't need to know this much. Do you know who's onto your left? Anybody can guess his name? Freddie Mercury. He was the frontman of Queen, the band. Okay, so he died from AIDS. He was a openly gay man, and when he was diagnosed with HIV, later on AIDS, unfortunately during those days we didn't have the treatment protocols that we have today. So he passed away. Contrary to that, the one on the right is Charlie Sheen. He's also an actor living with HIV. Till today, he's alive. 2.5 months actor. Just to increase your curiosity. There are people living with us who have HIV, people who are celebrities also. He got the treatment, he's very much living a normal life. Now let's understand structure of this virus. This is important and very simple. This is a spherical structure. So it has these virus genetic material inside, the RNA, that is covered by a core protein, P18, P24, P66, P32. These are proteins. Then outside of it, you would see there are certain budding-like structure. This is known as glycoproteins, GP120 and GP41. This is taken from Satyanarayan. This is a wrong printing here. This should be 41. So glycoprotein 41 and glycoprotein 120. 120 is very important. We'll see later on. So this is the hallmark of AIDS or HIV infection. The virus affects cell-mediated immune system. If you remember, immune defense mechanism contained, we had adaptive, we had innate. Adaptive was divided into humoral, cell-mediated, right? So this one affects the cell-mediated immunity, which means T lymphocytes are affected. And cell-mediated immunity actually tackles, uska kaam hota hai to tackle with the intracellular pathogens like the viruses. This virus has entered the cell, so whatever has entered the cell, cell-mediated immunity or the T lymphocytes are supposed to tackle them. But what this virus does is, instead of being tackled, it tackles the cell-mediated immunity or the helper T cells or T lymphocytes. Okay, so T lymphocytes are also known as CD4 cells. And CD4 cells are the ones that get destroyed by these viruses. So whenever we want to see the progression of somebody who has HIV, we measure the amount of CD4 cells in the blood. Okay, so if it goes down below a certain level, we know that his immunity is really, really bad. What does the virus do? It enters into the CD4 T lymphocytes. There are certain receptors on CD4 cells. There the virus binds with the cell using the glycoprotein GP120. That's why it is important. And also when we try to diagnose a person in the lab with HIV, we look for GP120 glycoprotein's presence as well. Okay, so that's why it's important. So this is a normal cell, T lymphocyte. There are receptors on them for CD4 cell, CD4. There, the HIV virus, using its glycoprotein 120, will go and bind and go inside, stay there. Okay, that is one option. It will not undergo replication for months and months, over years. Okay, or it can start replication. It will make its own DNA, transcription, translation, everything will happen. More viral proteins will be produced. Once it's done with the CD4 cells, it will go on infecting other CD4 cells. And in that process, first they have to get out of this cell, right? So it will destroy the cell, causing lysis of CD4 cells, so CD4 cells die. Then, because the virus has already multiplied, it will go on multiplying other CD4 cells. That way, over years and over months, a lot of CD4 cells die because they're infected with HIV. Like I said, they use the enzyme reverse transcriptase. These are the clinical features. If you see, these are not very, very specific for just HIV. You can have these features in so many other diseases as well. Okay, and why is it so? Because our immune system is decreased, all of these symptoms will happen. There is something called opportunistic infection. Do you know what is opportunistic infection? See, you remember, you know that there are people who are opportunistic, जिसको chance चाहिए dance करने के लिए. Similarly, when our immune system is good enough, you have germs in this room, in the air. You have germs on your table, on your books and copies, right? Oh, you don't get sick every time you go out of this room, right? Why? Because our immune system is intact. It is able to fight it. Even though bacteria is on your skin, the viruses are there. Once our immune system goes down, our CD4 levels go down, small things like this also start affecting us. So the person will be suffering from, so the bacteria and those other microorganisms will get the opportunity to attack you, and your immune system is not there good enough to fight them. So you will have lots of infection together, and those infections will be not getting healed with the medication that you take. So most of the patients may come to you with signs and symptoms of, let's say, cough and cold, upper respiratory tract infection, weight loss, skin problems. They will not come and tell you that I have HIV. And we don't go on and test anybody randomly for HIV, right? So these vague symptoms will be there. Some people may suddenly develop certain kind of cancer. One example is Kaposi sarcoma. That is seen only when our immune system goes down, unlike other cancers. So you can think of HIV in that case. So natural course of AIDS, meaning once the virus gets inside your body, what happens? There are 3 stages. One is acute stage or acute phase, then there is chronic phase, and then there is crisis phase. Okay? What happens in acute phase? This is the initial introduction of the virus into the host cell. Okay? So once the virus enters into the host cell, there is multiplication, there is replication, and since our body is also having its own immune system, it is going to fight back. Okay? The immune system is okay, intact for this moment. It is about 2 months, 3 months, no symptoms. And then you have chronic phase. So this can go on from 5 months to 10 years even. Here replication will slow down a little bit. Replication of the viruses will slow down. Immune system is more or less still there. Okay, body is trying to fight the virus. So by this time, body can make its own antibodies or memory T cells against the virus. So you will get antibodies to viral particles. So these patients are also known as seropositive patients. So when you test the serum, you'll get positive result, meaning you will get antibodies. If you do ELISA test on these patients, you will get antibodies against the viruses. Okay, so even though these patients may not give you any symptoms, if you test them, if you suspect them or whatever in routine testing, if you get, you will find that these people are positive. Then comes the crisis phase. So this is the last stage. This is full-blown AIDS. You know, HIV and AIDS is different. HIV is the infection with the virus. AIDS is when no treatment has been given. The person has already, immune system is already blown off. So in this case, our immune system fails. Okay, it is done fighting. All the CD4 cells count have gone down. So when the CD4 cell counts goes below 200 cells per microliter of blood, this is what we count as AIDS. Okay, we consider them as now they have developed AIDS. There is not much we can do at this point. So the person will be presenting with lot of, it's not just cold and cough anymore. The person will be having multi-organ failure. They'll be having so many infections in the body. They'll be having skin infections, mouth ulcers, a lot of things that happens when our body's immune system goes down completely. And you cannot do much at this stage. So this is crisis phase. After this, patient will die from the time they get the virus to the time of their death without treatment will be about 5 to 10 years. But with treatment, they can live a very, very long life, decades of life. What are the biochemical changes that happens? See, all the organs of the body get affected because our immune system is affected. So glucose metabolism, lipid metabolism, protein metabolism, amino acid metabolism, all of this will go haywire. The person will can have high glucose or low glucose. They will be developing insulin resistance. There can be anemia, thrombocytopenia, neutropenia, pancytopenia. Hormones will go haywire. Mitochondrial dysfunctions will be there. And even neurological manifestations. Some of the monocytes who are infected with HIV virus can enter into the brain and damage the brain cells as well. Exact mechanism is not known. So how do we detect them? With ELISA. Now there are much better ELISA machines are there. Initially, we used to detect them with ELISA and confirm them through Western blotting. Otherwise, we can also use RT-PCR or reverse transcriptase PCR method to diagnose not only the presence of the RNA in the blood, the viral RNA, but also the viral load. How much virus does this blood contain? Okay, and accordingly, we can give them the treatment. These are some of the medicines we give, NRTI and NRTI protease inhibitors. So overall, what they do is that they act on the reverse transcriptase enzyme one way or the other and try to prevent replication of these viruses. Protease inhibitors prevents maturation of the viral particles. So zidovudine, lamivudine, nevirapine, etc. are some of the medications that are used. Probably they will not ask you anything about the treatment. So this is a paper I have taken. This was published in the year 2020, I think, in Bangalore. So every HIV patients do not present the similar manner. And this is a case of a person who was diagnosed in the year 2012 in different labs, okay, as HIV positive person. His CD4 count cell was more than 600. So he was not given any treatment for HIV. So he did not undergo ART or antiretroviral therapy, okay, because his CD4 count cells were normal. So the protocol for treatment during those days was different. After that, it was revised. Anyway, he was diagnosed in 2012. He did not undergo any therapy. Then, after 6 years, he even has a child, has a wife. After he was diagnosed, of course, he started using condoms. Now they want to have the second child. They came to the doctor in the year 2018, after 6 years. So he told the doctors that I'm HIV positive, this and that. So I want to have another child, so can I try? When they checked his blood, his lab results showed no HIV virus. Zero viral load. The virus is there, but the test was showing no, very negligible, is as good as not having the virus. What they did next, that is also without treatment. Then they tried checking for CD4 count, which was around 300 something. So it was low, it was going very low. So if it is less than 200, you know they have fully developed AIDS, right? So the doctors caught that, and they have classified this patient as an elite controller or an elite control. These are the patients who, even though they have HIV virus in them or they're infected with HIV virus, do not show any virus in their blood for a period of 12 months or more, okay? But it has nothing to do with CD4 count cells. Now, if you take this patient and say, it's okay, you're HIV free, without checking for the CD4 count cells, this patient was eventually going to die because his immune system was getting lower. When he presented in the year 2018, he had upper respiratory tract infections. He was coughing and sneezing and all of that. That's it, okay? So very interesting case like that. So eventually the doctors started him on the therapy. He started taking medication for HIV, and they checked him after 1 year. So his the CD4 count cells started going up. He was doing better, and they have continued with the treatment. So sometimes even the HIV is not seen, but these patients are very rare. They're less than 1% of the total HIV population. It was just an interesting paper I found, so I thought I'll share with you. Now we get to COVID very quickly. COVID stands for? So COVID stands for coronavirus disease. Okay? And 19 stands for 2019, when it was first reported. Coronavirus disease because of the virus SARS-CoV-2. SARS stands for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. Coronavirus 2. COVID was first identified or reported in the year 2019 in Wuhan, China. Okay. So this is the India's load, a whole lot of it. very high burden of COVID. COVID is still it is still there. It is just not a pandemic anymore. How is it transmitted? Air, through air droplets or respiratory droplets, unlike HIV. So we can hug the HIV patient, we can sleep with them, we can shake hands, we can eat with them, but not with COVID patients. Respiratory droplets, even from the infected surface you can get the virus. Even this kind of room, which is enclosed space with AC running, it is very easy to transmit from one person to another. So this is also single-stranded RNA virus. HIV is also single-stranded RNA virus. There are 2 copies of single-stranded RNA virus in HIV virus. In case of this is single-stranded. 4 structural proteins are there. This is the structure. So this is a spike protein. Okay, like the spikes, very similar to HIV. So it has spike protein, membrane protein, envelope protein, and a nucleocapsid. So inside is this is the RNA virus, RNA, and then this is the nucleocapsid which protects the genome. Then we have these spike proteins and membrane proteins. So spike proteins act like glycoproteins in case of HIV virus. Spike proteins are the ones that enters into the host cell. Okay, it binds to, like in AIDS, the HIV virus was binding to CD4 receptors. This is binding to the ACE2 receptor, angiotensin converting enzyme 2 receptor. See, COVID is not completely studied till now. The study is still undergoing. So what we know so far is that spike protein will bind to, the spike protein of COVID virus will bind to the ACE2 receptors on the host cell. The virus will get attached. In response to that, our immune system will release its own proteases. Proteases are the enzymes that digest protein or breaks down the protein. So this protease will cleave or will cut off or digest the spike protein. But what ends up happening is that now the virus starts attaching itself to the host cytoplasm, or the host cell enters into the cytoplasm. This is known as endocytosis. Undergo replication, translation, everything inside of the cell. And it has a property to evade or to run away or to hide from our own immune system by certain factors such as IF signaling pathway. So whenever something enters, a foreign body enters into our body, our immune system generates certain cytokines. Cytokines are the proteins which act as signals between cell to cell. So once some virus enters into it, it will send a signal to another cell for communication purpose. So they are cytokines. These communication is suppressed by these viruses. Now, how many of you have given your samples for COVID? Almost all of us. Where do they take the sample from? From the oropharyngeal region and the nasal cavity, right? So, why? Because that is the first contact that we get through air, right? So it hits our epithelium in the nasopharynx and the oropharynx. In there, it starts replicating. These viruses, once it starts, it enters into the epithelium, replicates, causes our epithelium to get inflamed. Okay, so we get itchiness, we get sneezing, cough, and sore throat, etc. Over time, it goes into the blood and affects every other organ, causing a lot of other signs and symptoms. Multi-organ failure also. There is a thing called cytokine storm. Cytokines are released whenever there is an infection in the body. This cytokine is supposed to be in a coordinated manner. Sometimes our immune system gets overactivated, which is known as cytokine storm. So there is excessive release of these cytokines. For example, TNF alpha or tumor necrosis factor alpha, interferon gamma, interleukin 4, 6, etc. उसका काम क्या होता है? They tell each other also, like cell to cell communication is there, and things like TNF alpha, they are responsible for killing the cells who are infected with the virus. Okay, sometimes it kills those cells. When it gets overexcited, it goes on killing normal cells also. So what happens to our body? Our body starts dying. So when it happens in a large scale, you can imagine there will be many organs that can get damaged because of the cytokine storm. So this is not seen in every COVID patient, but there are certain people in whom this is seen very commonly. Some of the biomarkers we do for COVID: CRP, ferritin, D-dimer, LDH, IL-6, liver enzymes, very commonly done in those patients. This is the laboratory diagnosis, RT-PCR, which is gold standard. Antigen testing, antigen kits are available. Antigen means you will look for viral particles, antibody detection, also when our body produces antibody against the COVID virus. But RT-PCR is the confirmatory gold standard test for COVID. What is the treatment? Is there a definitive treatment? So what are the things that we give? Antibiotics. Do you think antibiotics will work for a virus? We give antivirals, not antibiotics. Antibiotics are only for the bacteria, okay? For fungus, it is antifungal. We don't give antibiotics for this. If you're giving, this is wrong. What else? What do we give? Vaccines. Vaccine is not treatment. It's for prevention. Sometimes we give plasma, but studies are not enough to give it as a definitive treatment. So there is no definitive treatment for COVID, only symptomatic treatment. For example, we give antiviral medication, we give them steroid if the inflammation is too much, oxygen, monoclonal antibodies, and vaccination for prevention. So other than vaccination, what else should we do to prevent this virus from spreading? Sanitize what? Hands. Okay, what else? Mask. And so most important is vaccination. So every other year there will be boosters there. You can take those vaccination. Hand washing. What are the steps of hand washing? No, don't show me, tell me. What is the first step? Open the tap. Yes. Rinse. Then take the soap. How many steps are there according to WHO? 6 steps. So the front, the palm, the back of the hand, between the fingers, the nails, the wrist, the thumb. 6. Hand washing, wearing mask. See, this is important not only for COVID. It is for any respiratory illness. This is always a good habit. If you don't feel well, wear a mask. Because anyway, just because you're feeling not that well, it is, so many of you do, but it is not advisable to just miss the classes or not go on with your activity of your daily life just because you're just feeling a little bit down. So you wear your mask and come to class so that you don't spread it to other people. Not only for COVID, for any respiratory illness. Nutritious diet, which none of us take, and none of us get adequate sleep. Are you getting adequate sleep? Whose fault is it? Thank you.